So hi guys, thanks for joining today's session. And so where are we now with respect to the assignments? Have you all completed the rest of the assignments? I hope you must have completed it, or else start work on it and complete those assignments. Okay. Today we'll start with R programming. Okay. Since you people are already familiar with the programming part, some extent, as far as the Python is concerned, right? I think you should be able to learn R programming also, but only thing is syntax difference. Okay. In R, for loop syntax and while loop, and maybe slight difference, but here we don't use colon to specify the block of the code. We use curly braces like how we use it in other programming languages. The C and Java, right? We use curly braces. Here we don't use that. Fine. Now let us try to understand, what is R programming language is all about. So why R programming language? Why do I have to learn R programming language? As I told you, having multiple skill sets or paramount nowadays. It is not a additional skill. It is an essential skill. Now you should be good at many programming language, and importantly, you should be very good at or Python programming. Okay, so R is a programming language. Unlike Python, R programming language is meant for the statistical computing and graphics. But when it comes to graphics, charts, you cannot compare any other software with R. Okay, so it's a open source and it's a free and open source. It allows anyone to use it. Okay, and even the source code is available. You can download the source code and you can modify the R programming language itself. Okay. The basis for R is S language, S for Sam. Okay, in the past, there is something called S language. It was developed by John Chambers in the Bell Laboratories, but I don't remember which year. 1980s. It was developed in Bell Chambers. And R is also like Python. It is a platform independent. Once you write a script in R program, you can simply copy or port it to any operating system, and then you can execute it. Okay, you don't have to make any changes to your R script in order to work on any specific operating system. Like Python, R is also extensible, and it offers a lot of additional functionalities for developers to so that you need not to write lines and lines of code. Right, so you can use the packages the various packages are available like data.table and dplyr. These packages are readily available. With these packages you can write you can perform data analysis, advanced data analysis, without writing many lines of code, right? And also the performance is much faster. We have, as I told you, the data.table and the dplyr packages. They have written it in C++ language, hence the performance is much faster than the standard or libraries. Yes, you were asking something, right? Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah, so in data science industry, which of the tool is widely used by the companies, whether R or Python?
So that's what I said, everything. Okay, so if you go for Walmart, if you get a job with Walmart, or if you join, forget about Walmart, other things. Let's say you join with Cognizant. Hope you would have seen my status, right? Okay, I did not put it in that status. The Cognizant is looking for data scientists with 0 to 2 years, right? And even for senior people, right? They expect the senior data scientist, especially with the senior data scientist in the sense, right? 4 to 6 years. The data scientist, okay? A senior data scientist above 6 years, okay? The lead level, the expectations are different. Even for the data scientists with 4 to 6 years, they expect them to be good at Python or SAS, even PySpark. Okay, and but in Python we have the popular packages like PySpark, that is for working with humongous amount of data, parallel processing, in memory, everything is possible with Spark. Okay, so as part of Spark, we have something else called PySpark. Using PySpark, you can perform ETL analysis. Sorry, ETL jobs, right? You can write your ETL jobs in order to perform real-time data synchronization, real-time analysis, real-time prediction. Everything is possible. The Let's say you join with Cognizant with 4 plus 6 years, right? They, when you share your profile, they will go through on your profile and they'll say, hey, he worked close to 5 years or 4 years experience. But then, you should be, I could see that this guy is good in Python, he knows Python, and he knows SAS. And he knows PySpark, he knows big data, Hadoop, and he worked in AWS cloud also, good. So we can shortlist this profile. So that's how even I look out for a profile. Okay, I don't want to. We don't have time to train people here. Okay, freshers, yes, we have plans to take freshers and train them. But honestly speaking, we don't. When it comes to the experienced people, right? We expect them to be good at more than one programming language. See, now Python is very hot, but you should be good at horror. Supposing you join with Cognizant, let's say they will position you as a data scientist for Walgreens project. So in that case, they expect you to be good at Python, TensorFlow, Keras, and even right, so Theano, right, those kind of packages you should be good at within Python. If you are good with those packages, that is enough. Let's say you work on that project for first 3 months or 4 months. After 4 months, customer says, okay, we are done with everything, and please take back your resource. We don't need Vetri any longer. But in future, any requirement comes up, we will consider Vetri since his contribution was phenomenal in this project. But they will say, right, after 4 months they will send you to bench. When you look out for another opportunity, there are some customers, but especially if you go to dice.com, D for doctor, I for India, C for cat, E for English, dice.com. That is a US Naukri, okay, site. Job site, popular job site. If you go and see, still even I am in touch with a couple of marketing and HR folks in USA. Even they send me now about the US requirements. They are in US job descriptions and all. They'll send it to me, and they'll ask me if you have any matching profile in US, please send it to me. Okay, in TCS, I have I have a network with a couple of data scientists. I used to refer them. Okay, but if you look at the job profile, most of the US customers, they look for people with experience in R and Python also. Right? Don't go literally by Indian market. So this is the expectation. And from your point of view, as I told you a while back, let's say once the Python project got over, the data science project got over, now you are on bench, there is a requirement for people with SAS background. Still many companies, they use SAS. Many bigger banks, the banks, especially the banks, and even the financial institutions, they use SAS. And if there is a requirement for data scientist, there is a requirement for a data scientist with SAS background, you can go ahead and say, hey, I am good with SAS. Why don't you take up my profile? So you don't have to wait on the bench, right? So, or if any opening comes up, or if there are any combination of skill set, if the customers are looking, we can still say, hey, I know Python I know, or everything, okay, SAS also. But to answer to your question, yes, even or also used by many of the companies in USA. You know, to for that you can go and check it in dice.com. Job description, data scientist job description. If you go and see, right, many of them still prefer or Python with or with Python. Okay, fine, yeah. So that is the thing. Okay, so or is a platform independent. You can move anywhere. Once you write a program, you can use it anywhere. Okay, so in or, the another advantage with or is a lot of blogs are there, a lot of user communities are there. In case you get stuck, they can help you out, and also a lot of packages are available in or. But now Python also matured like anything, not like those days. Even 4 years back or 5 years back, not many packages were available. See, now they introduced some data prep. Data prep is another new package. Here you don't have to write lines and lines of code, right? Simply you can use data prep to do all kind of ETL, extract, transform, clean and load the data, everything you can do it. And also EDA also, there are ready-made or plain vanilla packages, functions or methods that are available as part of data prep. So everything is maturing, but in India, if you ask, right, many of them, they say no, R is sinking, it is fading, its popularity is fading. It is correct, but when you look at the job description, right, they in US especially, they look for people with Python and R also. But anyhow, once you learn Python, learning R is not will not take much time. Okay. So the advantages, as I told you, it has many packages are available. Many developers across the globe, they develop many packages. Like I said, data.table is a awesome package. You can read even the huge, humongous amount of data in a matter of minutes or seconds also. And also there is a package called H2O, water, right? So during school time you studied what is H2O, right, as part of your chemistry lab. H2O stands for water, right? H2O, there is a package called H2O that is also open source free package. That is you can install it in R also, right? So using H2O you can achieve the in-memory functionality. The Spark became popular because of its in-memory capacity. You can store the data in memory, so that your processing time will be much faster. Similarly, H2O also, you can store the data in memory. That is also the reason why H2O gained a lot of popularity. You must have heard about a company by the name of H2O also, right? In the Naukri and all, if you see, there are some openings with H2O also. Even H2O, they are paying well. Close to 5,000 packages are available in R. Okay, and with this packages, you can perform spatial analysis and bioinformatics, econometrics. You can do everything. But the disadvantage with R is it is not scalable. So those days people used to say, the R is not scalable. Even with less number of data, it requires a lot of memory. It hangs. The system hangs. But nowadays, after the introduction of the new packages like H2O or data.table, the performance is much faster. Even we did some kind of benchmarking with data.table and pandas. Data.table in R outperforms pandas. But anyhow, on par with the data.table, they developed something else called Dask. So Dask is in Python. Okay, Dask is distributed processing. We will discuss that also later when I cover about the data pre-processing topic as part of machine learning models. Just give me a second, I am getting call. Hello. Yes, Karthik. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so that's what that's how they overcame the disadvantages. Now R is also scalable with the emergence of Hadoop. You know Hadoop, right? Don't worry about Hadoop. Also, I will help you the architecture of Hadoop and Spark also. Spark is written in Scala. There is a programming language called Scala. We'll see that also later. Okay, later point in time. At this moment, I don't want to get into so many things. Okay, so far Python and currently R. This is enough. Next, we will jump into data science part. Okay, algorithms are very much important, I guess. So okay, what IDEs we can use it. In the case of Python, we have used Jupyter Notebook. We can use PyCharm also. We can use Spider also. When it comes to data science, people use Jupyter Notebook only. Okay, for in the case of Python. When it comes to R, there is an IDE, popular IDE called RStudio. Okay, this is the one most of them they use it. If you have not yet downloaded this one, I will just show you how to download it. First, you need to download R. Okay, R, download R for Windows. So 4.1.1. okay, so I will, this is the one. Okay, download it here. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just share this link here. First you download this one. Look here, so you just go here, download R 4.11 for Windows. It is a exe file. Here you don't have to do any configuration. Once you download the exe file, you need to double click on this and then press the next button until the installation gets completed. That's all. It's as easy as that. Okay, you don't have to sweat too much on this one. The next one is download RStudio for Windows latest version. Did even download RStudio for Windows latest version? Yeah, download RStudio IDE. This also I will copy paste it in the chat window. Please check my chat window. Okay, and copy paste it in your browser and go here. Side by side you can download these two softwares. So this is a freeware. Okay, click download, it will get downloaded. Okay, RStudio for Windows, click download. 156.18. It depends on your network speed. Okay, so here in my case it's not so fast, but it is not too bad. Let's wait for some more time because others are also downloading it now. So done, right? So first what you do is you install R and then you install the RStudio. It's something like R is a backend. Without backend, what is the point in installing the front end, right? So first install R and then install RStudio. Okay, so after you install the RStudio successfully, this is also very simple. For example, look here, I'll just show you. If I double click on this, currently running. Okay, so that's the reason I'm not. This is also very simple. You need to press the next button. It will get installed. Okay, till you see, right, installation installed successfully. So it's not it's a very simple one. Okay, it doesn't require any additional packages or softwares. See, in the case of Python, in the case of MySQL, you need to install Microsoft Visual, Visual C++ and all. When it comes to Python also, it's very simple, the installation part, and even R also the same thing. But in the case of Python also, yes, simple configuration you need to do, right? So you need to choose an option called update the path. Okay, but here you don't have to do anything. It will get installed, right, directly. So you don't have to set too much on this. And all you need to do is, once the installation get over, so go to the start button and click RStudio, type RStudio, and click open. If you click open, it will get open like this, or script. Yeah, it opened. So once you open the RStudio, it will be like this. Okay, it will be like this. 1 second, you will not get any error like this. Okay, so you can see 4 windows like this. 1 second, initially you will find something like this. 4 windows. Okay, this is one window, and this is second window, this is the third window, and fourth window. The first window, this is where we will write the script. That's all. You just press this one, run. The output of this script, you can find it in the console. This is called your console window. This is what your console window, and you can see the output of your command in the console here. Okay, on the right side you will find this one. So what is that? The environment history connections tutorial. So we don't have to worry about other things. Just let us take a look at environment. So here, what all the variables that you have used it in the past, right? And what data set that you used it. All these variables, the cached variables information will be available here. So you can see the variable name, and this is a DF. DF stands for data frame. So how many number of records, how many number of columns were stored here. We discussed about data frame in Python also, right? As part of pandas, we discussed it. Even in fact, R's data frame is a role model for the Python guys to develop the pandas package. Okay, so earlier there was no package available in Python to store the data in the form of data frame. They wanted to implement something similar to R's data frame in Python. That's when there is a guy by the name of McKinney, right? So he's the one developed the pandas package. Okay? So anyhow, so the data frame in R is also a very popular one. And so what are all the variables, data frames that you used it, or any arrays that you used it, right? All the cached variables and the data set related information, you can find it in the environment section. And on the right bottom, you can see another window. So this is what your files, in your local Windows system, right? What folders are there, in which folder which files are. If you want to see it, you can see it here itself. And you have something called plots. If you plot any chart, right? Let's say if you execute any chart here, right? There is a function called histogram. That is for histogram. If you execute that, the chart will get plotted here on the right bottom. And you have packages, okay, and you can install new packages and you can update the packages, right? So you can, for example, you have already installed a package, but that package is not up to date because the package author, they made a lot of they introduced a lot of new features. For example, 1.2.1 at the time of installing blog package, now 1.2.2. simply you need to select this one, install updates, it will get installed. It will get upgraded. Okay, it's kind of upgradation. Okay, or if you want to install new package, you just go here. For example, ggplot 2. Just type that and click install. Certain packages you need to install it explicitly. Like in Python, we have something called TensorFlow. Okay, TensorFlow package, we have to install it explicitly. TensorFlow datasets, there is a package called that, right? Like that. Okay, so you need to install it explicitly. Like Python, right? So here also certain packages you need to install it explicitly, like a ggplot2 and various other packages. Okay, it's very simple. The installation of R and RStudio is very simple. RStudio is the widely used GUI, okay, or the IDE, integrated development environment, by many of the users. Okay, so using RStudio, they write all kind of scripts and they execute it everything. Okay, and also you can once you write a program in RStudio, right? You can convert that as the HTML files, so that you can share the HTML files with other users, like Jupyter Notebook, right? So here also you can generate HTML files, so that instead of seeing the output in the console, right? After this command, like Jupyter Notebook, okay. So immediately after this command, you can see the output of the command in the notebook, right? So it's nothing but the HTML file. You can generate HTML file also. For that, you need to install a package called knitr. Yeah, now I remember it. knitr, using which you can generate your R script in the form of HTML file or PDF file. Okay, but HTML file will be analogous to our Jupyter Notebook. Okay, in real time, that is how they do it. Okay, they generate the HTML file and they will share it to others, so that the review of your code review will be very easier. Okay, see, install, right? knitr got installed. This is not that one. Yeah. Anyway, we will see knitr later. Okay, don't worry. It's too early to discuss about knitr. Okay, so okay, now let us start with get our hands dirty by working with the basics to intermediate levels of commands in Python. Sorry, in R. Okay, there's something called get working directory. Get working directory. Now, if I want to find out, where my RStudio is, which folder by default my RStudio is pointing at, get working directory. C:\users welcome documents. What is the equivalent command in Python? You have a package called import sys, right? You cannot directly type get working directory. One second, I will just open something. Okay, phase deduction or advanced concept. See, if I compare both, right, you should be able to grasp it quickly, so your learning curve will be very less. Okay, here you have something called, you need to import this package in Python. Okay, sys dot get cwd, get current working directory, the equivalent to this one. This is an R, this is your Python script. Let us see why it takes a lot of time. Anyhow, we will check it. Let it bring up that page. We will see that. Okay, just give me a second here. I'm getting some calls here. 1 second. Here I'm back. There is some confusions going on here. See, we have some power issues. Okay, again, transformer, we are getting some spark, huge spark, and so far so good. Even in the afternoon, power went off. Okay, and it's a very old transformer. These guys now. So now you understood, how to find out the directory which is pointing. The currently the RStudio is pointing to, right? The RStudio is pointing to this default directory, right? When you install the software or studio, by default this one will show as a the current working directory, and you can change the current working directory using set working directory. Where is this Python thing? Is that still going on? My god, I don't know why the hell Python takes a lot of time. Already I got the dashboard. Okay, let it be. Sometimes it will take longer time, though my memory capacity is high. So what I am going to do is I am going to change the default directory to the this folder. Okay, set working directory. Okay, so get working directory and set working directory. So I don't want to use the default directory, right, with or the installation folder directory. Okay, so instead I want to use the folder where I kept my data file or my OR script, right? So I want to point it to that one. Fine. So what is the next thing? So the next thing is we will see what the basics of the OR programming part. Okay, the first what we will do is we will start with the variable, assigning a value to a variable x equal to 10, and here also the same print function is available. Value of x is comma x. So here you can see the variable and the value assigned to the variable also in the environment, and the console you can see value of x is okay, it is not printing here, right? So value of x is, one second, let me do one thing, x, right? Yeah, x got assigned already. So if I type x, it should print. Okay, what we will do is let me do one thing. Yeah, print of x is 10. And now we will see what problem. Why am I not type the text along with x? It is not printing it here, right? So I don't know whether they made any new changes to this one. Print value of x is, or let's say percentage d, like Python, right? So we will do like this. X is percentage d only is coming. Okay, here it is not coming, but here this one is working, right? So print x is working. So okay, if you have any syntax checking, if you want to check any syntax, right, print function question mark, here it is a question mark, whereas in Python we use help, right? Help or shift tab we can use it. Print x, look here. So if you scroll down, you can find some example here, right? So print dot table, print t, and again this is not much helpful. Sometimes, right, even the help is not much helpful. You need to you need to rely on Google only, right? So here width, right? So here max dot levels in object print x. Okay, print x comma value. No, he cannot do like this. Print x user source equal to true. Print x. Okay, let me see. Even I spent my time with or long back. Print statement in or, print in or. See the data camp. Also you can find a lot of free videos are available in the internet. You can watch their videos also there. Okay, learning R and Python will not take much time, okay, honestly speaking, but the machine learning and statistics part, right, that is where you need my help. Print x, yeah, you need to use something called paste 0. Yeah, you need to use paste 0 or paste, okay, variable or any string. Okay, so you need to use the best case inside print. Yeah, so this is what, even Geeks for Geeks, these are the good websites. But in the case of OR, you need to use something, because when you combine the numeric value with a string, right, you need to use something like this. Best paste inside print. Let us see what happens here. 10 is best paste, right? So what, instead of this one, and here I don't think so you can print it there. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, this is available. The value of x is, you can do it like this, the paste function, right? Only thing is, inside the print you need to use paste function, because you are using the numerical variable along with the string, right, character data type. So hence to combine the number with the character, you need to use a function called paste. Okay, and then the paste function, you need to pass it as an argument to your print, to the value of x is 10. This is how you can print it. This is the only thing is, right, the print is not as simple as how we did it in Python, right? So it's not pretty straightforward. Okay, the next one is x equal to 12, right? So x, the value of x. See, like Python, even R is also case sensitive. Okay, the small x is different from capital X. And then, okay, now let us check the data type. So of the variable x, class of x. So you can use a function called class, or you can use something called str function to check, or you can use something called mode of x. It's not the statistics mode. Okay, don't get confused with the mode that we discussed in statistics. It is not that one. This is nothing but to display the data type of the variable. When I use mode, it displays numeric. When I used class function, numeric. When I used str function, number type. Usually we use class function instead of using, see, these are all the different commands that are available to check the data type. But in Python we have only one command, type function, using which only you can see the data type. This is equivalent to Python type function. In Python we have type function, right? Type function. Yeah, but here usually we we use this function class x to check the data type. So what are the data types are there available? So we have something called integer data type, number data type. Number data type is called your numeric data type. By default, if you assign any value to a variable, any numeric value to a variable, the interpreter, it assigns the data type as numeric. It is equivalent to float data type. By default, the default number data type is numeric, which is nothing but float. So in Python we discussed about float, right? 1 second, where is the thing here? It's still going on. Okay, yeah, this is the data type, but in Python we use type function. Okay, so this is how we can check it out. So now the question is, how can I convert the numeric data type into integer data type? We have some coercion function. We can do coercion, type coercion, right? So you can do type coercion with the built-in functions like this one, as.integer x. So, and I am going to assign it back to the same variable, convert the data type of a variable as integer, and then store it back to x, and then now you check the data type of the variable x. integer data type. So X is an integer data type, right? So okay, so this is the one, and the next one is, so now you understood. So we have numeric data type and we have integer data type, and then the next one is the string data type. For example, I'm going to say first name. I'm going to say first underscore name is equivalent to Rajesh. Here if I say first name, first underscore name, Rajesh. Okay, and I'm going to say last name. One second. This is a, now let us check the data type of this one. First underscore name. You don't have to type the entire thing, right? So it's already available. The code completion facility. This is called your. Just press enter. It should come there, but I don't know why it is not coming. Or let me just type it. System is hanging. So usually, yeah, if you press enter, it should come. Or you can select it. Class of first underscore name. What data type is this? This is called character data type. In OR, instead of saying str, string data type, we call that as a character data type. Like in RDBMS, we say character data type, right? The same way we call the string data type as character data type in OR programming language. And let us type Rajesh, Ramaswamy. Now I'm going to say first name and I'm going to say last name. So this is how you can do concatenation. Error in first name, right? So we cannot use, sorry, this is not the pipeline, is not plus. Plus you can do first name plus last name. No, even that one is not working here, right? So here the data type concatenation. Usually in Python we use the double pipe symbol. One second, first name, last name, right? Let me do one thing. So there are some packages that are available. Using that also you can do it. Okay, one second. How to string concatenation? Even I forgot the syntax. Yeah, in vector we can cbind. Yeah, we have something called cbind using which you can do it. You can do column bind. Okay, we have some cbind or bind. So it is not straightforward like how we did it in Python. Okay, here cbind first underscore name, comma last underscore name. That's all. You need to do cbind. Combine or bind both the values. Look here, Rajesh Ramaswamy. You can combine these two things. And this is one way of combining the values of two different characters, character data type. Okay. But if you do cbind, it combines these two things, right? Right, but it is too far. The values. This is in OR, right? Output, yeah. So this is the thing. String concatenation in OR. Paste, yeah, we can use paste only here. Paste is the best option. First name, comma, last name. See, that's what you need to keep practice it. I've been training people for the last 10 years. Before all the great learning, all the people, right? Still, I forgot it, all the commands. Paste command is used to do the string concatenation. Okay, string concatenation. Cbind is to combine two different variable or combine two different columns into a single column, right? We can use cbind. Cbind is not much helpful here. Instead, you can use paste function to do the string concatenation. The next one is the boolean or the the logical data type, right? So we have logical data type. We have something called true comma false. Here the data type. Let us check the data type of this one. So here the true and false supposed to be in the caps letter. Look here. So logical here, right? Logical. So usually what we do is we don't keep the console in the left bottom. What we do is we keep this on the right side of this one. Okay. So let's go here. View panes, console on right. Just move this console to the right side. So, see, usually we don't see files every now and then, right? So what we do is we will minimize this one so that your console size will be bigger, and you can also minimize this one, right, so that your script window and console window will be larger. And also it helps us to compare the output side by side, right? When you execute anything on the left side, you can see it the output of this one on the right side instantly, and side by side you can view it. It's very for the sake of it's up to you, but usually we keep the console on the right side of the script window. Okay, and the next one is the logical data type, right? So this is a logical data type, integer and number data type, and character data type also we discussed. And next what we will do is we will find out we have something called vector. So right, these are all called your scalar values. See, other thing which you need to remember is in Python, instead of using the equal sign as an assignment operator, they use something called less than hyphen. So this is the assignment operator. So you must be wondering then what is the difference between this and this. Both of them serves the same purpose, but in some cases, right, either this or this one will not work. I'll show you when this one will not work. Okay, but most of the R programming, if you go to github.com, right, you will find a lot of scripts there, Python or anything. When you check any R programming, right, they would have used this one. R programmer, they would have used this one as an assignment operator. Okay, so this is the one you need to remember it. So most of my students, right, they used to ask me this one. Okay, so what is the difference between equal sign and less than hyphen? Both of them are same, but only difference is when you define a metadata in a list or so, right, you cannot use the less than hyphen. There you have to use equal sign directly or so. Okay, that I will show you little later. Okay, and for example, I have another variable called, okay, this is the number, and how do I convert the, let's say a is equivalent to 10, right? So 10, I want to convert this as a numeric data type, numeric of A, and class of A. So numeric, right? So using as dot numeric. This is also the built-in function, as numeric, as dot date, and date also we will see it. Okay, little later how to work with the date data type, that also we will see it. So next what we will do is let us one second, let me go through the PowerPoint and see if there are any other data type apart from the data structures. Yeah, these are the data type, right? So numeric data type is a float data type, integer is the whole number, and character is something like this. Logical data type is something like this, and date time will be something like this. Okay, and we will see the date little later. Scalar data type. So scalar variable, we say scalar variable. What do you mean by scalar variable? Which is nothing but the one element vector. So here in this variable I stored only one value. This is called your scalar. and we have something called vector. This is very specific to R. You don't see the vector in Python. This is very specific to R. Okay, we will see how to define a vector. You can, if you want to assign more than one value to a variable, use something called vector. Okay, to assign more than one value to a variable. Not like Python, you can assign a value to a variable, right? For example, IA1, here you can say 2, 3, 4, 5. If you give like this, it will throw an error in R. You cannot assign multiple values to a variable. And also in R, in single line, you cannot assign more than one value, right? You cannot assign multiple values to a multiple variable in one go. It is not possible, whereas it is possible in Python, right? It is not possible here. So here you cannot assign multiple values to a variable. So can someone tell me, in Python, can we assign multiple values to a single variable? You cannot do it there also, right? You need to use multiple variables, or let's say on the right side, if you use 4 values, you need to define the 4 corresponding variable on the left side in Python. This is the example. So on the right side, I have used 2 values. The corresponding these 2 values, you need to specify the variable name also here. Otherwise, it will throw an error. But in R, this one is not possible. And also, in Python, you can assign more than one value to a variable, right? 2, 3, 4. This is also possible. But when you check the data type of this one will be the tuple. If you see the type of this A1, right? This is nothing but tuple. You can probably type it side by side in your Jupyter notebook now. I don't know why the hell it takes a lot of time. Let me do one thing. Or we will use Google Colab, right? So Google Colab is Google Colab. So this is the Jupyter notebook, made available by Google. Anybody can go and use it. Even you don't have to install anything, right? Supposing you want to execute a few lines of commands to verify certain things, right? You don't have to install the Anaconda, all the thing. You don't have to have that headache, right? So for example, let me do one thing. CV2. This is my computer vision. One second. Let me do one thing. Next one is something like this. So here I am going to do. So it is still in progress. I'm not supposed to, I can type it, but if I'm not supposed to execute it unless this one get completed, okay? So for example, to show you this one, right? This one is throwing an error, but in Python we will see. But here you cannot use less than hyphen A1. So the point here is, can I assign more than one value to a variable? Yes, it is possible in Python. Right, look here, it got assigned to the variable A1, but this is called your tuple. You don't have to use parenthesis. As I told you, to define a tuple, you have to use parenthesis inside the, like this parenthesis. This is what parenthesis, right? Open and closed parenthesis. Anything if you specify inside the open and closed parenthesis, that is your tuple. But by default, if you don't specify any parenthesis, the default the default data type of this variable is nothing but tuple. So tuple is immutable, right? So you cannot modify the values. But net you can assign more than one value to a variable in Python, right? Yeah, I wanted to check this one also, right? So which one? I was checking this one. Which one here? Yeah, more than one value to a variable, right? This one. This is also possible in Python. Here, for example, print A1 comma A2, and if I press this tab, it shows the output, right? So A1 is 2 and A2 is 3. So you can assign multiple values to a multiple variable in one go. In single line itself we can do it, but it is not possible here. in R. Okay, that is also the reason why Python is much popular. Okay, because it is robust, robust, and it supports a lot of functional programming related features compared to R. Even in R we can write functional programming, but this one is so robust. Okay, so now we learnt about the scalar variable. This is nothing but scalar variable, right? So if you want to define a vector, okay, in R, how can I assign more than one value to a variable? So here I assign more than one value to a variable called A1 in Python. It became a tuple. This variable became a tuple data type. But in R you cannot assign it directly. If I execute this one, is throwing an error, right? So unexpected, comma in, because for a variable you can assign only one value at a time. You cannot assign more than one value. If I have to assign more than one value, I have to use C function, right? C function is used to create a vector to store more than one value. The vector is also kind of your array. So in array you cannot store multiple data type, isn't it? For example, if I type A1 and if I execute this one, it shows me 2, 3, 4. What value stored in A1? It stores A2. So how do I access the first element of the vector A1 of 0? If I give numeric 0, right? Sorry, A1, here the index values are starting from 1, not 0. In Python and C language and Java, once you store a value in an array, to access them, you need to, the index value starts from 0, right? But in R, it is good. It's pretty straightforward. This is index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. If you want to access 5, you need to specify the index value as 4 here. Sorry, 4. Here the index values are not start from, right? So A1 of 4 is nothing but 5, right? Yeah, 5. This is the 5. So this is how you can access the values from the vector. And I am going to create another vector called C of 3, 5, 7, and I am going to print A2 and A1 plus A2. Let us see A1 plus A2 what is happening. Fine. So sorry, here I did not specify the correct number of elements that are there in the vector A2 is not same as this one, but still it is doing the addition, right? So 2 plus 3 is 5, and 3 plus 5 is 8, and 4 plus 7 is 11, and 5 and nothing is there, right? So the 8, so again it goes on the rotation basis. Again it goes the first value and add it, 5, 8, right? See, when you actually I made a mistake here. I thought of adding one more, but the mistakes helps us to learn more, right? But if you don't specify anything, what happens? It throws a warning, but instead of adding with the null value, it is adding the values from the beginning. For that, we will test it out now. See, 2 plus 3 is 5, right? So 3 plus 5 is 8, and 4 plus 7 is 11. And 5 plus 3 is 8, and 6 plus 5 is 11. This is how it is. This is a bit tricky, right? So in the online test, if they ask you something, right, this is valid only, but this is how it works. Okay, what we will do is, let me do one thing. Here I just copy paste this one. I call this as a A3. 3, 5, 7. So I'm going to put 5 elements here, and it's 2, 1, right? So I call this a A3, and A1 plus A3. What is A1? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So the 2 and 3 is 5, and 8 11 and 7 and 7, correct. Element wise addition is happen perfectly. But can you do the same thing in Python with tuple? You see, in tuple you have this value, tuple a1 you have this value, in tuple a3 you have this value. Can you do a1 plus a3? You cannot do it. Element wise addition you cannot do it. For example, let us compare this one also with this one. I am going to say a1 is equivalent to, here there is nothing called C function and end, right? So I am going to say a2 is equivalent to this one or a3. So I have two tuples here. If I do a1 plus a3, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? It will get concatenated. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, followed by that this one will get copied. It is not doing the element wise addition. It is not doing the element wise addition. Instead, these two values are plus means concatenation, right? So it gets concatenated. In Python, it gets concatenated. So here plus is the mere addition. That is the beauty of vector. Okay, but in Python, matrix to array and array to array, matrix to matrix, you can perform element wise addition, multiplication, and you can do dot product also, right? What is dot product? What is dot product? How many of you remember dot product? Matrix, the addition, right? Matrix addition is nothing but dot product. So dot product is also possible with arrays to arrays, matrix to matrix, or the combination of arrays and matrix, but provided that the dimension of both the array and matrix should be somewhat same, right? Otherwise it will not work, it will throw an error. But using tuple or list, you cannot perform direct arithmetic operation. I have list 1 and another list 2. I cannot perform element to element addition or any other arithmetic operation with list and tuple in Python. But whereas with the simple vector itself, we can perform the arithmetic operation. For example, a3 into a scalar value 3. I want to multiply 3 with each and every element of my a3. So 3 into 3 is 9, 3 into 5, 15, 21, right? It is working fine. And also vector to vector arithmetic operation. So here element to element arithmetic operation, element to thing, right? And scalar operation also you can do it with this. Like how you do it with array, the same thing is possible with vector in or programming language. But here you don't have to import NumPy package, right? These are the standard, as part of the standard or package itself, all these things you can do it, okay? And the next one is so here let us check the data type of the vector a1. Let us see what data type am I going to get it. So it says still numeric, right? So how do I check whether it is a vector or is dot vector? There is a function called is dot vector. It is a variable or a vector. Look here, in our case the last name, first name and a, x, these are all not a vector, these are the variable, right? But this is a vector. a1 is a vector because we have assigned more than one value using a C function. Inside the C function we mentioned 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Now let us check, is this a vector or not? Yes, it is true. But if you try with the variable a, right? So is dot vector of a, if I give, it will say false because this is a variable, it is not a vector. Oh, it is a vector a. Yeah, let us do one thing, x, right? Okay, in that case it considers everything as a vector. Okay, yeah, is dot vector x True, yeah, it considers every variable as a vector here. Yeah. So, but we use the naming conventions like scalar, though we say scalar, right? So everything is kind of a vector only, okay, in R, the variable, all the things, right? But not everything. The variable, say the individual variable, and if you store multiple values to a variable, also called as a vector. So, but here it says, this also, vector, okay. And okay, this is a numeric data type. This vector is a numeric vector. Which one even? Because we have, is it possible to store multiple data type in a vector? Yes, that is possible. Let's A4 and C function. Here I say, right, Ashok, and let's say his age is 23 and his income is, so something like that, 1,23,000 is income. Fine. So this is multiple data. So here 40.74 something like that. Okay. He is a 23-year-old or not 23. Let's say not 33-year-old guy. And let's say what is A4. So Ashok 33. Okay, this is your character vector. You might be asking this. See, we have only one character value here. Here we have integer, and here we have float data type, numeric data type. But when I see the data type of this one, right, A4, it still shows it is a, let's see what, it's a character data type. Character data type. So you must be wondering, I included only one character data type, different data type, integer, float and character. The why, it shows the A4 as a character data type. So you know very well, right? You must have studied during school time about, as part of your computer science lesson, right? So the order of precedence, always the string data type takes the highest precedence. Even if you include different data type along with the character or string data type, everything else also will get converted as a string data type or character data type. So that, right? So irrespective of the other data type which you use it, always string data type takes the higher priority. For example, I'm going to use a logical operator also, but still it shows character. It converts all the values into a character data type. So what do we conclude with this? Using vector, you can store only one data type. Even if you combine multiple data types, right, it will convert that as a single data type only. Okay, let us see the another example. For example, I am going to remove character 1 here. This is a very basic thing, right? All the programming language, it will be like this. Now if I remove the character data type, now you tell me, which data type will take higher precedence. Which data type will take? Float or logical operator? Float data type, right? This second top priority is given to float. All the values will get converted as a numeric data type, right? So if you include, but if you remove this one, now which one will have a higher priority? Which one will have the higher priority? Integer or logical operator, right? Still numeric, because by default or considers all the numeric values, whether it's an integer or float, right? It assigns the float data type. So in R, the float data type is nothing but numeric data type. You got it? But end of the day, you can store only one data type to a vector, like array. In array, you can store single data type. You cannot combine multiple data type. Even if you combine it, you can see the same result, right? You can find the same output there. It will convert, let's say, if you included all the data type, including character data type. So what it does is, it will convert all your other data type also into character data type. Right, that is what is happening with this one. So okay, what are the other? Okay, so you understood what is a vector, right? You can define a vector using a C function. You can assign multiple values to a variable, but you cannot assign multiple data to a single variable using vector. Even if you try to assign multiple data type based on the order of precedence, right? The data type of your vector will get converted as a single data type. So, like, these are the simple arithmetic operations. For example, 2 plus 3 squared, if I want to do it, right? So, caret, like how you use it in other language, you can use caret. So, 9 plus 2 is 11, and square root of 4 sqrt. There is a built-in function called sqrt, using which you can take the square root of, and then log of 2. What is the log of 2? Log of 2. And then log of 1. What is log of 1? And we'll be using the log of 1 everything as part of machine learning algorithm. Log of 1 is 0. Remember this, don't forget it. When I cover the entropy, I'll be covering this one also. Log of 1 is 0 always. Okay, you just remember this. I think these are all during school time we studied, but again, school time almost 20 years or 15 years back we have studied, right? Another thing is when it comes to the logical vector. Okay, this is my logical vector, right? So because I'm using true or false, instead of this I can use the short form T comma F. Instead of typing true, false, right, you can use T or F. This is more than sufficient. This is another way of you can specify the logical. You can create a logical vector another way. Okay, and we have something called complex data type in Python. I don't know how many of you remember when I discussed about the complex data type, right? It's a C of, but here the let's 1 plus here let's 2i, here let's 3 plus 0i, something like that. So class of C, this is complex data type. This is called your complex data type. Okay, and but in Python, instead of I, we used J to define a complex data type. For example, 1 plus 2j, 3 plus 0j, right? That is how we use the. But in okay, let us do one thing. Let's C1, C of let's 2 comma 2 plus 1i, and here let's 0 plus 3i. Okay, this is another thing. And C plus C1, let's see if we can, as I told you, you can perform element wise arithmetic operation with vector. With complex data type, is it possible? Yes, right? All the real values get added. 1 plus 2 is 3, look here, 3, and 2i plus 1i is 3i, and 3 plus 0 is 3, and 0 plus 3 is 3i, right? So element wise arithmetic operation you can perform with the complex vector also, complex data type, right? Complex vector, this is called your complex vector. So now you understood various data type, and also I compared this one with the Python thing also, right? And the next thing is we will see let's sequence of values, how to use a sequence of values. How to generate sequence of values. So how do we generate between zones of values? Suppose I want to generate the value 0 to 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How can we do it with Python? How many of you remember? How many of you remember? I don't know, after vaccination I forgot many things here. 0 colon 10, right? So x and y. Range function, right? We used a range function in Python. Yeah, somehow, thank God. It's unable to remember. Range 0 comma 9. If I give like this, what will happen? 0 to 9 in total, right? So yeah, instead of this, you need to use list of range of 0 comma 9. If I give like this, yeah, 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 in total, right? Start the value from 0, or if I want to have it between 1 to 10, right? Directly you can specify 1 to 10, I think so. This one will generate 1 to 9, yeah. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and this you need to specify the end minus 1, right? That is the rule in range. If you want to generate the values from 1 to 10, range function is helpful here. Similarly, here you don't have to use any range function, nothing. Directly you can give 1 colon 3. So if you see the value of x 1 to 3 and 0 to 10, it's pretty straightforward. 0 to 10. Okay, here there is no n minus 1 and all. That confusion is not there. Ideally in Python also they can do it. The end minus 1 confusion and all, right? They can remove it. And also this is how you can generate the values. And next one is supposing I am creating a vector like this. C of let's say I'm going to say comma comma, and I'm going to say NA comma 3. Okay, and next one is dot NA of x, and we have a length function that is available to check how many number of elements are there in a vector. So either in argument 1 is empty here, right? So argument 1 is empty here. Okay, let us do one thing here. I'm going to say 2 comma 1. You cannot have empty values in your vector. That is what you understand from this. So intentionally I did this. I did not enter any value. Simply I put comma. It is not allowed here. But I put NA here. What is NA? Not available. So let's say length of x 4. It says 4 values are there. Though I have NA is a missing value. Is dot NA of x, right? So this is not a missing value, false. This is not a missing value, false. NA, look here, the third one is true. Yes, missing value is there. Using is NA function in OR, we can find out the missing values. Here in OR, NA is nothing but not available, missing value. And you have something called NAN function is also available in OR. Is dot NAN of EX. So not a number. Okay, NAN stands for not a number here. Is dot NAN. Look here, in this case it says all the values are false. That means none of the NAN values are there. So if I wanted to have the NAN, right? So what I should do is, for example, I am going to create. Let's say I have something called x1, and here I am going to say n small a capital N. Okay, and is NAN. If I give this one, right? Look here, true, right? NAN is true. The first two are false because these two are not. It's not a it's a number, right? Here it is true. Yes, it is not a number. Third one is false. Actually, what is not a number? What is if anything divided by 0, what? 7 divided by 0 is what? Infinity, right? Anything divided by 0 is infinity. 0 divided by anything is 0. We know very well, right? 7 anything divided by 0 is infinity. That is not a number. That is not. There are some situations, right? When you perform some arithmetic operation between a list or any other thing, right? You might land up the denominator, you might land up with some 0 value. So that is an NAN. So simply it will assign NAN. If you have something like this, right? The denominator 0 comes, it will assign simply NAN to check is there any missing values are there. In addition, you need to check are there any NAN values available, right? You need to do that. And also, for example, in this case, right, x, the first element, how do I take from x, right, and then 1 to 4, display 1 to 4 index values. It's pretty straightforward. It's not like end minus 1, all confusions are not there. And for example, and you wanted to check x greater than 2. I want to print only the value that are greater than 2, right? You can do filtering inside the parenthesis itself. The vector filtering also you can do it. And for vector, yes, more than 2 is NA and then 3, because NA is it has no meaning, right? So right, and then 3 is more than 2, so hence it selects that one also. And also you have something called, right, okay, I wanted to do some kind of arithmetic operations. For example, sum of x, if I want to do it, is it possible to do it now? NA, it gives NA. Why? Here I have 3 values are there, but only one NA is there. Just because I have one missing value, my sum is not working. Sum is an aggregate function. Sum and mean and max, min, these are all the aggregate function, right? It aggregates the values. So in that case, how do I perform this? And for this, simply what you do is NA dot rm equal to y, you can give that, remove the missing value, and then compute the no, not this one. First you need to, okay, this is not available. NA dot rm, NA dot omit is available. For example, I'm going to say x4 and NA dot omit of my x, I'm going to assign it to x4, and then what I do is, sum of x4. Sorry. So remove the missing value and store it in a variable called x4, right? So 2 plus 1 3, 3 plus 3 is 6. NA dot omit is helpful in terms of removing the missing values. And also we have some NA dot rm, I somehow forgot that one, probably I will check and tell you that one also, okay? And for example, we have something else, some condition, right, like x square bracket not x percentage in percentage. So what value you have here is 3, right? Yeah. So this is basically to check for the existence of value. If if x has the value 3, exclude that, except 3, print the rest of the values. If you have any requirement like this, right, this is nothing but not, the exclamation is not, so x in 3, not x in 3, right? If x has 3, not, don't select that, exclude that. In Python we have used this one, right, tilde. Yesterday we discussed about tilde used to exclude the value, but here this the typical C and Java use exclamatory sign, right, the same thing. But percentage in percentage, this is the operator which helps us to identify the existence of a value in a variable. If this variable has this value, if it is there, then it will return true. Not true means, right, so x exclude this one and rest of the values you can print it, right? Not true means false, right? So when you do false, it will filter only the true values, 2 1 a, right? So you can exclude the values using this way also. And how will you exclude the value in Python? You can use tilde, right? You can use tilde, and also you can use min or max. Since we have, right, a min of x4, and try the same thing with max of 4, min, max, the median, I think so median is available, object x3 is not available, sorry, x, right, x4, because x4 we removed the missing values, especially when you use min, max, the data set should not have any missing value in it. Right, so this is how you can use some max, min, mean, SD. SD stands for standard deviation. SD of what is that? My variable is x4, right? Even in the case of standard deviation, you're not supposed to have the missing value. Standard deviation is 1 for this value, 2, 1, 3. For this, the standard deviation is 1. That is what we can see it here. And next one is how we can create a matrix. How we can create a matrix in OR. So in Python, using the NumPy package, right? There is a function called mat function. np.mat, we create the matrix. But here to create a matrix, use a matrix function directly. For example, m is equivalent to matrix of let's C of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here I say number of n row is equivalent to 2, and n call is equivalent to number of column is equal to 2, because 2 by 2, right? In that case, I'm going to create it like this, and type m. We will see what value is stored in the variable m. Object m not found. So here there is a mistake. N call equal to 2. Error in matrix. Unused argument. Okay. Here n row. So I put typing mistake. See 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 1 and 2 printed in this way. 1, right? Column wise. I wanted to print it row wise. For example, instead of printing 1, 2 here, 1, 2 you printed here, and 3, 4 you printed here. Yes, there is an option called by row equal to true in, or you have something called by row equal to true. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, right? So that's all. See, the 1 and 2 printed in the same row, and 3 and 4 is printed in the same way. See, one of my students, right, when he attended an interview with Tiger Analytics, they literally grilled him like anything in Python. Okay, the first level of interview was Python, and what they asked him, right, how do you add the diagonal values? How do you add the diagonal values in Python? And also I wanted to replace all my diagonal values by 1. Here 1, here 1. Supposing you have 3 cross 3, right? You have one more row. So 1, 1, 1. Replace all the diagonal values, irrespective of the diagonal values. You replace it, and replace it by 1. So it should be 1, 1, 1. How do you do that? Another interview question is, okay, the next question is the diagonal values. I want to add 10 to the diagonal values alone. How can you do that? These are all the exercises for you guys. You give it a try. Okay, so replace. Okay, let me do one thing. I'm going to say I'm going to create 4, 5, 6 and 2 cross 3, right? So number of columns 3. Yeah, so here 1, 5. Okay, let me do one thing. 7 and 8. We'll have one more thing. Okay, 7, 8. 7, 8, right? So 2 and 4. Yeah, 2 rows but 4 columns. Sorry, not like this. Number of rows is 4, and number of columns is 2. Let's say like this. In that case 4 rows, right, and 2 columns. But even this case, right, it will not be good. So yeah, so what we will do is number of rows 2, and see here the 1, 5 and 12, right? So in this case 1, 5, 12. Yeah, in this case, yeah, I don't think so we need this many number. Let's look at this one, right? So 1 and what are the diagonal values? 1, 8, 12, right? So 1, 8, 12. Okay, let me do one thing. I will remove this one also. I think I should have used that one here. we don't need that many things. 9, right? So 3 cross 3, yeah, 3 cross 3, 9. Yeah, so 159. So you need to replace the 159 by 1. Okay. So here 1 should be there. Number 2 is, add 10 to these things. 10, 1 plus 10 is 11, 5 plus 10 is 15, and 9 plus, right? So find out how you can do it in both Python and R. So in Python, there are some built-in functions are available. You can do it, but in R, how do you do that? You need to explore that and check that one, because there are situations we will be assigning 1 to the diagonal values, the matrix, when we use the machine learning algorithm, right? We'll be using that. So okay, the next one is what is that? Dim of m. So to check but in Python size, right? Size of this one will give you 3 cross 3 matrix. How do you check the size of your matrix? 3 cross 3. So okay, so we have covered in today's session so far the data types, and also we discussed about the basic data types, right? The integer, float is nothing but numeric in OR, and we discussed about complex data type and character data type. Date data type we will discuss it next week. Okay, so in the meanwhile you work on this. And also make sure that you are going to submit all the data frame related, pandas data frame related assignments, before this Wednesday. Okay. So this script also I will share it with you guys. Okay, you can start practice it. This doesn't require any data files, external data file. Simply execute each and everything, and try to be familiar with this one. And if you know any change in the time, I will let you know at least 1 day in advance. What we will do 7:30 to 9:30, yeah, so that you can also go to bed early, and also in case of any production related issues, right, you can work on it on weekend night. It's up to you, right? So those of you want to go early to the bed weekend, right, at least you can go to bed early, 7:30 to 9:30. It is confirmed for both Saturday and Sunday. But in case of any change, I will let you know. Okay, well ahead. At least 1 day in advance, I will let you know. Okay. But don't miss any session once I start the machine learning part. That is very critical. Once you learn it, that's what I was. Few of the guys from the Great Lakes, they attended